Hello, BookTube. I have the week's first mail haul here, or at least part of one. I think there's probably a lot more mail coming today, but this is enough to get us started. I must confess, the old Steve Spidey sense is not pinging with any of these things, so this might be one where I don't upload. We shall see, though. We'll try this first one. It's only 4 packages, so it shouldn't take forever. We'll see what we have here. What is this first one? Oh, okay, all right. Okay. Wow, all right, this is due in June. This is by James Polkin, who has a PhD. He's taught at Princeton Writing Program, the Parsons School of Design, the New School for Public Engagement, and the Creative Nonfiction Foundation. Okay, so he's done a lot of creative nonfiction writing. And he's written all over the place. He lives in New York City with his husband, the photographer Greg Salvatore, and a Labrador named Albert. And the book is Indecent Advances, a hidden history of true crime and prejudice before Stonewall. Stonewall being, those of you who might need a refresher course, the seminal turning point, what is seen as the seminal turning point in the life of gay people in America. What have we got here? And this marks the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots. Wow. That time went by like nothing. In this book, the author provides an important look at how queer men were portrayed as perpetrators of the same violence they suffered. He traces how the public interpreted true crime stories about the murder of men by other men from the end of World War I to the Stonewall era, when gay men came to be seen as a class both historically victimized and increasingly visible. Wow, so he's dug into police records from the pre-Stonewall era. That can't have been fun reading. Using extensive historical research, the author tells the story of how queer men were systematically criminalized in the American popular imagination, from the sex panics of the 1930s to the Kinsey study of male homosexuality in the 1940s and the Cold War panic of communists and homosexuals in government. The author illustrates the vital role true crime stories played in circulating ideas of normalcy and deviancy. Fantastic. Fantastic. And how those stories were used as tools to discriminate against and harm queer men. More importantly, the author shows how this discrimination was ultimately transformed by activists to help shape the burgeoning gay rights movement in the years leading up to the Stonewall riots of 1969. A cast of noted public figures, Tennessee Williams, Leopold and Loeb, J. Edgar Hoover, Alfred Kinsey, Jack Kerouac, William S. Burroughs, Patricia Highsmith, James Baldwin, and Gore Vidal, is threaded through the story of this complex subject. Oh boy. All right. Well, I'm on board. Okay. So that's early June. This could be a legitimately important contribution to the popular gay history studies. Could very well be. I can't, off the top of my head, remember another book obviously pitched for a popular audience that mined this same material, and probably even the ones that didn't do it in this kind of detail. Great, fantastic. All right, well that was unexpected. This next one, it's practically floating if I let go of it. It practically floats up instead of down. So this, what can this be? It's just tiny. What on earth is this? This is coming out in July. What is this? What is this? Okay. So this is, okay, so, dear Steve, that's me. Oh no, Bean, don't eat that. Okay, this year marks the centennial of the little celebrated yet surprisingly timely second novel by Virginia Woolf, Night and Day. On its surface, the novel reads like a Shakespearean comedy. We follow the romantic endeavors of two friends, Catherine Hilbery and Mary Datchet. As love is confessed and rebuffed, unions planned and cancelled, until we finally arrive at 2 engagements. But these dramas play out against the women's suffrage movement for voting rights and equal wages, and just as Woolf makes use of the tropes of romantic comedy, she challenges them with an undercurrent of radical doubt about the institution of marriage and the civic imbalance between the sexes. Okay, all right, but as best-selling author of Fates and Furies, Lauren Groff writes in her incisive introduction, oh, we're not comparing her to Virginia Woolf, are we? We're not really going to do that, are we? Okay, then the whole of this paragraph is a quote from her introduction. What is this? We are pleased to be releasing this centennial edition as the 7th installment of the Restless Classics, a series of great books from the past that still speak to our time, place, and restlessness. It's been 100 years since Night and Day. Each edition comes with a new introduction and original illustrations. In this pamphlet, we present Lauren Groff's introduction to Night and Day and a selection of graphic art. Okay, so this is going to be a 450-page paperback. Boy, oh boy, this is a weird way to do things. I would not do things this way. It's going to be a 450-page paperback in mid-July. All I got was Lauren Groff's introduction and a little bit of it's literally flying away from me. They sent me one page and artwork. That is all that this is. It's just one folded piece of paper. Why send it? Why? Why not? I realize if it's an ornate thing with original illustration, then you're probably not going to have review copies. All right, fine, then send me an email. What is this? I don't even know what that is. I'm going to feed it to my dog. But I'm interested in seeing a pretty illustrated edition of Night and Day. That's for sure. Definitely. So I'll be interested in anything more than this. I don't know what this is, but it's nice to know that they will be coming out with something, with the real thing in July. There's no way that I'm going to hold on to this thing. It's going to be gone in 2 seconds. But I will let the publicist know that I definitely want this. I seem to remember this imprint. I seem to remember that they did a collection of Chekhov stories that was gorgeous. The Restless imprint. So. When we get closer to the day, I'm sure that I will get more of that. In the meantime, let's move on. This has heft to it. This will not be just one folded page. Oh no. All right, this is a March release, but we just saw it. We just saw it on my Monday Reads. This is the second copy of Starvation Shore by Laura Waterman. It's a fantastic historical novel evoking the Greeley expedition, an unprepared captain, a bunch of desperate men, and the surviving members taken to extremes of cannibalism, and all of it chronicled not just with a distanced narrator, but also with lots of first-hand stuff, journals and letters and whatnot. One of the expedition members legitimately did keep a journal right up until the moment when they were rescued. So that we have lots of first-hand information that the author has worked in just wonderfully. But we've already talked about it, so we don't have to talk about it again. This is a March release that I really need to get to writing about, I mean. And then we'll do this last one. We'll see what this is. This one is lighter. We'll see what this one is. Oh, fantastic. Okay. All right. This comes out in early April, and it's the hardcover. That's wonderful. This is a debut novel, and it is terrific. A wholehearted recommendation. This is Sarah Blake. It's Nama. This is a historical novel about the wife of Noah from the myth of Noah's Ark. It's the story of an extraordinary woman and her unacknowledged role in preserving life on Earth. In the Bible, the character of Noah's wife is unnamed and overlooked. In Blake's hands, Nama is a complex and conflicted woman, a devoted wife grieving her secret lover, a deeply wounded mother trying to embolden her children to confront this new world, a tireless, sometimes ruthless caretaker of an unruly menagerie of restless animals, a person of faith who rages at God for allowing mankind, his creation, to destroy itself, and expecting her to pick up the pieces. In the tradition of best-selling novels like The Red Tent and The Paris Wife. And so the pub sheet is trying to skew this towards a kind of historical novel that we have seen many examplos of on this channel. What I like to think of as married to a bastard historical novels, whether it's Robert Frost or Frank Lloyd Wright or whoever Lindbergh, whoever it is. There's a booming industry of historical novels about women who married creeps. And I guess this is the mother of them all. Unless we're going to get a novel about Eve. Blake takes this reluctant matriarch and gives her a beautiful and unexpected voice that reverberates into the modern era. And it actually does. I mean, there are some absurdities here that we just can't get around. not least of which is that over half the people in the United States, the adults in the United States, believe that Noah's flood actually happened. It of course didn't. It's self-evidently a myth. It of course did not happen. But more than half the people in the country do believe that it did. So God only knows what kind of parenthetical absurdities are going to occur in any reviews that this book gets. I'm almost afraid to look at them. They're going to be, I would be willing to bet that most of the reviewers that do this book, this comes out, when did I say? Early April. If this gets any kind of widespread coverage, and it should, because it's beautifully done. There's a bit of ridiculousness involved in some of it, but if it gets coverage, I'd be willing to bet that most of the critics will be among that greater than 50% who believe that this is somehow based on history. It is not. The Noah's flood story is a myth. It's self-evidently mythological. So no part of it happened. Not based on any kind of reality. And yet, critics are bored, and they're predictable, and some of them are biddable, and I bet I'll be reading stuff like, we don't really know what happened, or whatever. But one way or another, I enjoyed this a lot. I can hardly recommend it. You just have to, I mean, it's not the book's fault. The credulousness of 21st century America is not the book's fault. I don't think the author, I haven't read any of interviews with her. I haven't read any author notes or anything like that. I'm afraid to. In the book, the author is certainly not claiming that anything like this really happened. This is just should be considered the exact equivalent of Circe by Madeline Miller. And when I first heard about it, I did not think that it would be good, and it really is. So I'm glad to have a finished copy of it. That's great. I'll be reviewing it in April. So we have Nama, which is, I guess we'll call it a historical novel, and it's very good. Then we have another historical novel, Starvation Shore, a duplicate, but glad to have a copy. I think I know a little library that might like it, especially since the main character, the organizer of the whole expedition, who thinks that he has safely buried all evidence of cannibalism and has been returned to be celebrated in the town square, is from New Hampshire. Right across the border from the library I have in question. Then this thing, it's a piece of paper, but it promises a book. It promises a beautiful illustrated edition of Night and Day by Virginia Woolf for its 100th anniversary. That'll be wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And then Indecent Advances. This was a more meaty mail haul than I thought. Indecent Advances about pre-Stonewall gay history. And about some of the police reports and the sensationalized stories that may have had a slightly positive effect in sort of tilling the ground. Can't wait to read it. Can't wait to see what the author has to say about it. So there you go. That is our first mail haul of the week. I'm going to get this thing out of here because it's in the way. But so really, we're talking about 3 books, each one of which it has promise. I haven't read this one. These 2 I have read and really can recommend. So not a bad way to start the mail. If there's more, then I shall resurface in your feed. But otherwise, we will resume tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.